Michael Learned made what she now calls the biggest mistake of her life when she walked away from the Waltons. At the time, she underestimated the impact the show would have and doubted the project's longevity. Joining the cast as the beloved matriarch Olivia Walton, she didn't fully believe in the series' potential. But instead of staying to witness its profound cultural influence, she made the fateful decision to leave. Now, at 85, Learned still reflects on that choice with a heavy heart, wishing she had stayed with the family that touched the hearts of millions. The impact of Richard Thomas's exit. Michael's departure from the Waltons wasn't the first major exit that the show experienced. Prior to her decision to leave, another key figure had also moved on. Richard Thomas, who played John Boy Walton, the show's main character, and Olivia's on-screen son. Richard Thomas was a central figure on the Waltons, and his presence helped define the show's core dynamic. However, after season 5, Richard decided to leave to pursue other opportunities, and his character was recast with actor Robert Whiteman. The recasting of John Boy marked a turning point for the Waltons. Although Robert Whiteman took on the role with dedication, the change had a noticeable impact on the show's popularity. The departure of Richard Thomas affected not only the audience, but also the cast and crew, many of whom felt that something integral had been lost. Michael Learned was among those who struggled to adapt to the changes, and she found it increasingly difficult to continue as if nothing had shifted. Richard Thomas's departure left a significant void, and the attempt to replace him didn't sit well with many of the people involved in the show. Michael Learned was particularly affected as her character Olivia shared a close bond with John Boy. The dynamic between Olivia and John Boy had been one of the emotional anchors of the series, and Richard's exit made it challenging for Michael to find the same level of connection with the reimagined character. Michael tried her best to continue portraying Olivia with the same warmth and dedication, but the chemistry simply wasn't the same. The emotional weight that Richard brought to the character of John Boy was irreplaceable, and Michael felt that the essence of the show had shifted in a way that she couldn't reconcile with. As the 7th season came to an end, she knew it was time for her to step away. Michael Learned, who portrayed Olivia Walton, the family matriarch, was a key part of the show for its first 7 seasons. When the 7th season wrapped up in 1979, Michael decided it was time to move on. She opted out of returning as a main cast member for the 8th season. Instead, she appeared sporadically in a guest starring capacity. By the time the 9th and final season came around, Michael was no longer involved in the show at all. In the years since her departure, fans have frequently wondered why Michael chose to leave before the series reached its official end. Over time, she's been more open about the reasons behind her decision, giving fans insight into what was really going on behind the scenes. The transition after Michael's exit was challenging, not only for the remaining cast members, but also for the fans who had grown attached to Olivia Walton. The absence of the family's matriarch was keenly felt, and while the series attempted to adapt, it was clear that the Waltons was no longer the same. Michael's portrayal of Olivia had brought a sense of warmth and stability to the show, and without her presence, the dynamic shifted considerably. In the years that followed, Michael Learned moved on to various other television projects, including roles in soap operas like Nurse and guest appearances on shows such as St. Elsewhere and Scrubs. Despite leaving the Waltons, Michael always spoke highly of her time on the show, often reflecting on the profound impact it had on her career and the enduring bond she formed with her fellow cast members. However, she was honest about the fact that the departure was motivated by the changes behind the scenes and her own desire for a different path. Michael Learned skepticism about the Waltons. When the Waltons premiered on television in 1972, the cast did not have high expectations for its success. In fact, many involved in the production doubted it would even make it through a full season. Michael Learned, who played the matriarch Olivia Walton, was among those who had her reservations. According to Michael, she had been led to believe that the entire project was little more than a tax write-off for the production company, a sentiment that seemed shared by many working on the show. Despite their doubts, The Waltons became a massive hit, resonating with audiences across the country. It went on to air for 9 seasons, winning critical acclaim and capturing the hearts of millions. However, only 7 of those 9 seasons featured Michael as a full-time cast member. She chose to leave the show after season 7, a decision that she would come to regret deeply in the years that followed. Before joining the cast of The Waltons, Michael learned was facing a challenging time in her personal life. She was a recently divorced single mother, struggling to make ends meet while raising her children. Michael had always aspired to become a successful actress, but her journey to stardom had been anything but smooth. Her former husband had shared her dreams of a career in the entertainment industry, but those dreams did not come to fruition for either of them during their marriage. With the weight of raising her children on her own, Michael knew she needed a steady income. When the opportunity to play Olivia Walton came her way, she took it out of financial necessity rather than passion for the project. The role didn't align with her aspirations. Olivia Walton was significantly older than the characters Michael envisioned herself playing, and television was not the medium she had initially hoped to work in. Still, she knew the job could provide the stability her family desperately needed. Around the same time, Michael had been gaining some traction in her acting career, particularly in theater. She had appeared in a production of Private Lives, a play directed by none other than Francis Ford Coppola. She had also portrayed Cleopatra in a well-received stage production. These roles were more in line with her artistic ambitions, and they had begun to earn her some recognition. However, the financial struggles of being a single mother meant she needed to make practical choices, and that practicality ultimately led her to The Waltons. A role for survival, not passion. Michael Learned took on the role of Olivia Walton not because she believed in the show's potential, but because of the paycheck that came with it. The offer was a game changer. She would be earning over $1,000 per week, an amount that was beyond anything she had ever made before. For Michael, the decision was simple. It was about survival. She had to think about providing for her children, and this role offered her the chance to do just that. As a recently divorced single mother, she needed a stable source of income to support her family, and the Waltons provided exactly that. The salary was substantial, over $1,000 per week, which was more than she had ever earned before. The money allowed her to provide a comfortable life for her children, and it gave her a sense of security that she hadn't experienced in years. However, as time went on, Michael began to realize that financial security wasn't enough to keep her happy in the role. The role of Olivia Walton brought Michael fame and recognition, but it wasn't the kind of role she had envisioned for herself. Olivia was older than the characters Michael aspired to play, and while she grew to love the character, it wasn't a role that allowed her to fully explore her range as an actress. The initial excitement of achieving stardom was tempered by the realization that she was now tied to a character that didn't fully align with her artistic ambitions. When Michael first stepped onto the set of The Waltons, her expectations were low. She wasn't particularly excited about playing an older character, nor was she eager to work in television. But the opportunity to provide a stable life for her family was more important than her personal misgivings. As filming for the first season progressed, there were rumors circulating among the cast and crew that the show was destined to fail. Some even believed it was only being produced for the purpose of writing off losses. Despite these doubts, Michael gave her best performance, never imagining that the show would turn into the phenomenon it did. To everyone's surprise, The Waltons became an immediate hit. It resonated deeply with audiences, who fell in love with the Walton family and their wholesome, heartfelt stories set against the backdrop of the Great Depression. Michael's portrayal of Olivia Walton earned her significant acclaim, and she quickly became one of the most beloved characters on the show. The role that she had taken purely for financial reasons had made her a star. Michael was initially overwhelmed by the show's success. She had taken on the role to support her children, and now she found herself in the spotlight, with fans across the country recognizing her as America's mother. While this newfound fame brought opportunities and financial stability, it also came with pressures that Michael hadn't anticipated. The demands of working on a successful television series were intense, and as the show continued, those demands only grew. Despite her initial doubts, Michael developed a deep connection to her character and the stories being told. She appreciated the show's values and its focus on family, which resonated with her own experiences as a single mother. However, the reality of being a part of such a popular series also meant long hours and an intense filming schedule, which began to take a toll on her over time. The demands of fame and exhausting work schedule. Another major factor that influenced Michael Learn's decision to leave the Waltons was the demanding nature of the work. While she was grateful for the financial stability the show provided, the grueling shooting schedule began to wear on her over time. According to Michael, she often found herself working 14-hour days, and the constant pressure to meet the show's rigorous demands took a significant toll on her well-being. The long hours left her physically and emotionally drained, with little time to spend with her own family or to pursue other interests. For Michael, the initial excitement of being part of a successful television series gradually began to fade as the reality of the workload set in. Acting had always been her passion, but the intensity of working on a hit TV show was far different from her experiences on stage. The theater had given her a sense of creative fulfillment and freedom, while television demanded a relentless pace that often left her feeling exhausted and disconnected from her love of the craft. The show's unexpected success. When the Waltons first began production, there was little confidence that it would succeed. In fact, there were rumors circulating on set that the show was merely a tax write-off for the network, and many of the cast and crew, including Michael Learn, doubted that it would even make it to air. Michael herself admitted that she was somewhat relieved at the thought that the show might end after just one season. She could take the money she had earned and return to her roots in theater with a bit more financial security than before. However, contrary to those early doubts, The Waltons became an instant hit. Critics praised the show for its heartfelt storytelling and its depiction of a struggling but loving family during the Great Depression. Audiences quickly fell in love with the Walton family, and Michael found herself thrust into the spotlight as one of the most beloved characters on television. The unexpected success of the Waltons meant that Michael was now part of a long-term commitment, one that demanded even more of her time and energy. As the show continued, the network saw the positive critical reception as a reason to keep it on the air, and the series began to attract a dedicated audience. What had started as a project with uncertain prospects had now turned into a cultural phenomenon, and Michael was at the center of it all. While she was proud of what the show had accomplished, the reality of the long hours and the emotional demands of the role began to weigh heavily on her. The struggle to find balance. Balancing her work on the Waltons with her responsibilities as a single mother was another significant challenge for Michael Learn. The long shooting days meant that she often had little time to spend with her children, and the demands of the role left her feeling torn between her professional and personal life. While the financial benefits of the show allowed her to provide for her family, the emotional cost of being away from her children was something she struggled with throughout her time on the series. Michael has spoken openly about the difficulties of trying to be both a dedicated mother and a successful actress. The role of Olivia Walton required her to embody the ideal of a nurturing, present mother, but in reality, the demands of the show often kept her away from her own children. This disconnect between her on-screen persona and her real-life experience was another factor that contributed to her eventual decision to leave the show. By the end of the 7th season, Michael Learn knew it was time for her to move on from the Waltons. The departure of Richard Thomas, the exhausting work schedule, and the struggle to find personal fulfillment all played a role in her decision. She had given her all to the show, but she felt that it was no longer the right place for her. Michael hoped that by stepping away, she could find new opportunities that would allow her to reconnect with her passion for acting and spend more time with her family. In the years that followed, Michael continued to work in television and theater, taking on roles that allowed her to explore different aspects of her talent. She appeared in shows like Nurse and made guest appearances in popular series such as St. Elsewhere. While she found success in her post-Waltons career, she has often reflected on her time on the show with a mix of pride and regret. Leaving the Waltons was not an easy decision, but it was one that she felt was necessary for her own well-being. Michael Learns struggles with the demands of television. Michael Learns' departure from the Waltons was driven by multiple factors, one of which was her ongoing struggle with the demands of the television industry. The transition from theater to television was not an easy one for her, as she was never fully able to adjust to the grueling shooting schedule that the show demanded. Unlike the creative freedom and flexible schedule of stage acting, the television world required long, rigid hours. For Michael, filming The Waltons meant consistently working 12 to 14-hour days, a schedule that quickly became exhausting. While The Waltons gave Michael both fame and financial stability, it came at a personal cost. The relentless pace of television production left her physically and mentally drained, and as the series went on, the demands only grew. For Michael, the burnout became increasingly difficult to manage, and after 7 seasons of non-stop work, she realized she couldn't continue. The departure of Richard Thomas and its impact. One of the major reasons that ultimately pushed Michael Learn to leave the Waltons was the departure of her on-screen son, Richard Thomas, who played John Boy Walton. Richard had been an integral part of the show since its inception, and his portrayal of John Boy was the emotional core of the series. The close bond between Olivia Walton, played by Michael, and her eldest son was a central part of the show's charm, and Richard's departure after season 5 changed the entire dynamic of the series. When Richard decided to leave the Waltons to pursue other opportunities, the producers chose to recast the role of John Boy rather than write the character out entirely. Actor Robert Whiteman stepped in to fill the role, but the chemistry between Olivia and the new John Boy wasn't the same. For Michael, this change was disheartening. The deep connection she had developed with Richard Thomas, both on and off screen, could not be replicated with a new actor, and this made it difficult for her to stay invested in her character. With Richard gone, Michael felt as though the show had lost an essential part of its identity. The heart of the Waltons had always been the relationships within the family, and the change in the dynamic between Olivia and John Boy left Michael feeling disconnected from her role. As the show continued into its 7th season, it was clear to her that the Waltons was no longer the same. Without Richard, the series felt like a shell of what it once was, making it an easier decision for Michael to walk away. Michael's feelings about Olivia Walton. Another aspect that contributed to Michael Learn's decision to leave was her relationship with the character of Olivia Walton. While Olivia was a beloved character who became an icon of wholesome television motherhood, Michael struggled with the way Olivia was portrayed. She felt that Olivia was often too saccharine, an idealized version of what a mother should be, without much depth or complexity. This made it challenging for Michael to fully connect with the role, as she found it difficult to bring her own personality and nuance to a character that was written to be almost impossibly perfect. Michael wanted to explore different roles that would challenge her as an actress, roles that would allow her to show a broader range of emotions and experiences. While Olivia Walton was a kind, nurturing mother, Michael longed for characters that had more grit and dimension. She was grateful for the opportunities the Waltons provided, but after 7 seasons, she felt that she had done all she could with Olivia. The character's lack of growth and the repetitive nature of the storylines left Michael feeling creatively unfulfilled. When Michael Learn decided to leave the Waltons, the writers had to come up with a way to explain Olivia's absence. Instead of killing off the character or having her simply disappear, the writers chose to give Olivia a storyline that would take her away from Walton's Mountain for an extended period of time. It was explained that Olivia had contracted tuberculosis and needed to travel to Arizona to receive treatment. This storyline allowed the character to leave without completely closing the door on her return, which was important for both the writers and the audience, who still held Olivia Walton in high regard. Michael did make a few guest appearances during the 8th season of The Waltons, reprising her role as Olivia in a limited capacity. These appearances were a way for the show to maintain a connection with one of its most beloved characters, even as Michael was no longer part of the main cast. However, by the time the 9th and final season rolled around, Olivia was absent altogether, and Michael had fully moved on. Life after the Waltons. Despite her departure from the main series, Michael learned wasn't entirely done with Olivia Walton. In the years that followed, she reprised her role in several made-for-television reunion movies that brought the Walton family back together. These reunion specials allowed Michael to reconnect with her fellow cast members and revisit the character of Olivia in a way that was less demanding than the original series. The reunion films were well received by fans, and they provided Michael with an opportunity to reflect on her time on the Waltons with a sense of nostalgia. Michael has often spoken about her time on the Waltons with mixed emotions. While she struggled with the demands of the show and the limitations of her character, she also formed lasting friendships with her co-stars. The cast of the Waltons became like a real family, and the bond they shared extended beyond the screen. Michael has remained close with many of her former castmates, and they continue to stay in touch and support one another to this day. Michael's decision to leave the Waltons was not without its challenges. While she had grown tired of the demanding shooting schedule and the creative limitations of her role, walking away from a steady paycheck was not an easy choice. The financial security that the Waltons provided had been a lifeline for Michael, especially as a single mother raising her children. The salary she earned from the show allowed her to provide a stable life for her family, and giving that up was a significant risk. However, Michael knew that her well-being and her passion for acting were more important than the financial benefits. She needed to find a way to rekindle her love for the craft, and staying on the Waltons would not allow her to do that. By stepping away, she hoped to find new opportunities that would challenge her creatively and reignite her passion for performing. Looking back, Michael Learned has expressed some regret over her decision to leave the Waltons before the show ended. While she knows that leaving was the right choice for her at the time, she also acknowledges that it was difficult to walk away from a show that meant so much to so many people. The Walton family had become an important part of American television, and being a part of that legacy was something Michael took great pride in. In interviews, Michael has shared that she wishes she could have found a way to stay on the show for its entire run. Despite the challenges she faced, she remains grateful for the experience and for the connections she made with her fellow cast members. The role of Olivia Walton may not have been the most creatively fulfilling for Michael, but it was one that allowed her to touch the lives of millions of viewers, and that is something she will always cherish. Even though Michael Learned left the Waltons after the 7th season, her portrayal of Olivia Walton left a lasting impact on the show and its viewers. Olivia was the heart of the Walton family, and Michael's performance brought warmth, compassion, and authenticity to the role. Her departure marked a turning point for the series, but the character of Olivia continued to be a presence, even in her absence. Michael Learned's time on the Waltons was a complex chapter in her life, one filled with both challenges and triumphs. Her decision to leave was influenced by a combination of factors: the departure of Richard Thomas, the demanding work schedule, her creative frustrations with the role, and her desire for personal fulfillment. While it wasn't an easy choice, it was one that ultimately allowed her to grow as an actress and as a person. Michael Learned's regret over leaving the Waltons. Michael Learned, who played the beloved matriarch Olivia Walton on the Waltons, has often expressed her regret over her decision to leave the show before its conclusion. Reflecting on her departure, Michael has shared that she wishes she had stayed on as a main cast member for the final 2 seasons of the series. In hindsight, she believes that it wouldn't have been too difficult to remain with the show, and it would have been worth it just to say she was there until the very end. This regret has been a recurring theme in Michael's reflections on her time with the Waltons, and it helps to explain why she was so eager to return for the reunion specials in the years that followed. Michael Learn's initial decision to leave the Waltons was influenced by the grueling work schedule that came with being a part of a successful television series. The shooting days were long and often monotonous, with Michael frequently working 12 to 14-hour days to meet the demands of the show. Although the series brought her both fame and financial security, the relentless pace of production began to take its toll. By the time the 7th season wrapped up, Michael felt that she had given all she could to the character of Olivia Walton and was ready to move on to new opportunities. Despite her exhaustion, Michael now looks back on that decision with a sense of regret. She has acknowledged that the challenges of the work schedule, while difficult, were not insurmountable. In retrospect, she believes she could have pushed through the final 2 seasons and stayed with the show until its conclusion. The realization that she could have been part of the entire journey of the Waltons has led Michael to reflect on what might have been if she had chosen to stay. Returning to make amends, the reunion specials. Michael Learn's regret over leaving the Waltons early was one of the driving forces behind her decision to return for the made-for-television reunion specials that brought the Walton family back together years later. These reunion features allowed Michael to step back into the role of Olivia Walton and reconnect with her former castmates. For Michael, reprising the role was not only an opportunity to revisit a character that had meant so much to her, but also a chance to make amends for her earlier departure. The reunion specials were well received by fans who were eager to see the Walton family together again. For Michael, the experience was bittersweet. While she cherished the opportunity to reunite with her on-screen family, she couldn't help but think about the years she had missed by leaving the show before its final seasons. The reunion movies allowed her to be part of the Waltons story once again, but they also served as a reminder of what she had walked away from. Unexpected moments on set. Despite the long hours and demanding schedule, there were moments during Michael's time on the Waltons that stood out as memorable and unique experiences. One such moment occurred during the filming of an episode titled The Prize. This particular episode reunited Michael on screen with her ex-husband, Peter Donat, who she had divorced shortly before the series began. In The Prize, Olivia Walton finds herself facing emotional turmoil when a former flame returns to town, causing tension between her and her husband, John Walton. In a surprising twist, the producers decided to cast Michael's real-life ex-husband, Peter Donat, as the former flame. The decision to bring Peter onto the set could have been an awkward one, given their history. But thankfully, Michael and Peter got along well after their divorce, and the experience was a positive one for both of them. For Michael, working with Peter again was a reminder of how far she had come since their separation. The two shared a professional respect that made their on-screen reunion a memorable experience, and it was a testament to Michael's ability to remain gracious and composed, even in potentially uncomfortable situations. This episode became one of the standout moments of her time on the show, not only for the storyline it presented, but also for the personal significance it held. One of the reasons Michael Learn regrets leaving the Waltons is the deep bond she formed with her fellow cast members. The cast of the Waltons became like a real family over the years, and Michael's departure meant saying goodbye to people who had become an important part of her life. Despite leaving the show, Michael has maintained close friendships with many of her former co-stars, and those relationships have continued to be a source of support and joy for her. Michael has often spoken about the camaraderie that existed on set and the sense of community that developed among the cast and crew. The Walton family was more than just a group of actors playing roles. It was a group of people who genuinely cared for one another and supported each other through the ups and downs of life. Leaving that behind was one of the most difficult aspects of Michael's decision, and it is something she still reflects on with a sense of longing. Michael's reflections on Olivia Walton's character. Another aspect of Michael learns regret stems from her relationship with the character of Olivia Walton. During her time on the show, Michael sometimes struggled with the way Olivia was portrayed. She felt that Olivia was often written as too perfect, an idealized version of a mother who rarely showed any flaws or complexity. This made it challenging for Michael to bring her own personality and depth to the role, and at times she found herself feeling disconnected from the character. However, in the years since her departure, Michael has come to appreciate Olivia Walton in a new light. She recognizes the importance of the character to the show's fans and the impact that Olivia had on viewers. Olivia represented the strength, love, and resilience of a mother who was doing her best to keep her family together during difficult times. For many viewers, Olivia was a source of comfort and inspiration, and Michael now understands the value of portraying such a positive and nurturing figure. Michael has expressed that, if given the chance, she would have approached the role differently in those final seasons. She wishes she had stayed to see Olivia's story through to the end, and she believes that there were still aspects of the character that could have been explored. The regret of not fully realizing Olivia's potential is something that has stayed with Michael, and it is one of the reasons she was so eager to return for the reunion specials. Life after the Waltons. After leaving the Waltons, Michael Learned continued to have a successful career in television and theater. She took on roles in other television series, including Nurse, for which she won an Emmy Award, and made guest appearances in shows like St. Elsewhere and Scrubs. While she found success in her post-Waltons career, Michael has often reflected on her time on the show with a mix of pride and regret. The decision to leave the Waltons was not an easy one, and it came with its share of challenges. Michael had to navigate the uncertainty of finding new work and the emotional difficulty of leaving behind a role that had defined her career. Despite these challenges, she found new opportunities that allowed her to grow as an actress and explore different aspects of her talent. However, the sense of unfinished business with the Waltons remained, and it is something that Michael has spoken about openly in interviews over the years. Today, at the age of 85, Michael Learned continues to reflect on her time on the Waltons with a sense of nostalgia and gratitude. She remains active in the entertainment industry, occasionally taking on roles in television and theater, and she often speaks about her experiences on the Waltons at fan events and conventions. Michael's connection to the show and its fans has endured, and she takes great pride in the impact that the Waltons has had on generations of viewers.